Alright guys, moving on. We're going to be talking about this report from the Insider about the 4th Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man and certain things that we can expect to see from that movie. Now before we get into that, a lot of people have various opinions about the Insider. Obviously, a lot of people think he's a hack, but apparently he's a little bit more than actually half right. It's like high 60s, so like 2/3 right at most times. So maybe at that point you're just kind of throwing whatever at the wall and seeing what sticks, but who knows? I just think it's interesting enough to talk about, so I'm not putting a whole lot of weight here. Maybe you shouldn't either. Let's discuss it in the comments. Also, don't forget to like the video. Anyway, with that being said, he talks about this movie being a street-level film that has a very minor role for MJ, the Punisher and Daredevil coming back, the symbiote being used, and maybe even Mephisto, which... You cannot have it both ways. You cannot be a street-level movie with street-level heroes that also uses the symbiote and the literal incarnation of the devil for the MCU or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Whatever, Marvel's comic book universe, that's what I mean. He also goes on to say that Sacha Baron Cohen is the choice for Mephisto and that he would be showing up in Ironheart.
Oh, king in the castle, king in the castle. Have a chair, I have a chair. Oh, go do this, king in the castle.
Which might end up being unreliable because Sacha Baron Cohen might not show up in Ironheart or might not even be Mephisto if he has to do a movie for Universal instead. And the problem with that is Ironheart has also been done for a very long time. That's not to say maybe he can show up in a post-credit scene and they use him just to kind of set him up for a Spider-Man story for the 4th film. But again, considering Ironheart has been done for a really long time, it's really weird that he would talk about Mephisto being a part of that show, but it might not be the person that he says it is because maybe there's a deal that hasn't happened yet. Again, the guy's right about 2/3 of the time. Take it or leave it. This one does seem like kind of throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, so we're going to have to, take it as it is. Another part of this rumor is that the symbiote, the little part of Venom that was left by Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock from No Way Home's post-credit scene, is going to tie into the movie somehow and find its way to Peter Parker. A lot of people, myself included, thought that was somewhat predictable considering the end of No Way Home.
What is happening? No, it's just not here. No, don't again.
You're paying the bill? No.
We're home!
Nothing.
I'm so done with the multiverse shit! But I like our version of the Barman better!
But then, at the same time, the first Spider-Man movie of the MCU set up the Scorpion, which they never did, as well as Venom the Last Dance, kind of negating that entire post-credit scene where Eddie Brock went from the MCU back to Mexico in his own universe, and that same scene played out just in his universe. So unless there were 2 portions of the symbiote left in the MCU as well as the bar that he's in his own universe, that's just, this isn't about Sony's villain universe, but the way they've handled that has been nothing less of majorly confusing, and I wish that there was a way of putting everything together and figuring out, hey, yeah, all of this is connected and all of this is its own separate thing, and those movies that we were making might not even be part of their own universe, even though there's a lot of implications that they are. The thing is I don't know. That being said, that 3rd movie did introduce Null, which is a multiversal threat. The MCU is still dealing with the multiversal threat as is, and there's a lot of implications that say that the movies being set between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are going to be taking place within Battleworld, which could potentially just be, hey, New York City has been transported into this various different universe or planet or whatever it ends up being, that in-between world from Loki or whatever in the MCU. That's what Battleworld is. New York, or a portion of New York, including the Punisher, Daredevil, and Spider-Man, have been put in here, and they have to protect it street level crime style to like bigger ideas or bigger villains that might incorporate the symbiote and then might needlessly be fixed or kind of intentionally be fixed with Mephisto showing up and Peter having to do something that takes away the wish at No Way Home. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can think about that, but is it interesting? I'm not entirely sure. The idea that everything taking place in Battleworld and there's at least some cohesion with the MCU going forward, to me, makes a lot of sense and something that I would like to see, because that whole universe has been pretty all over the place as of late. There's seriously so much going on and so little interconnection between one movie or another. And the fact that the vast majority of the films haven't gotten a sequel. In fact, I don't think anything since the start of Phase 4 has been a sequel to something that was introduced. They're going to do, Thor 5, and they're going to do this Spider-Man movie, but it's starting to look like this Spider-Man movie might just be the only main sequel that comes out between the beginning of Phase 4 and the ending of Phase 6. And that's crazy to me. So I guess the question for everybody listening is this. What do you want to see from Spider-Man 4? Because it's starting to seem like there is no real general direction and nobody knows what's going on. Nothing that has been reported makes any sense. And this movie and the way the Snyder is talking about it seems like a bunch of horseshit. The idea that you can have these gigantic threats like Mephisto, Null, the symbiote, and all this other stuff incorporated into a street-level movie, which might also be taking place in a multiversal setting and could potentially bring in, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man. All of this is just starting to sound really muddled, and there's no real direction for any of this going forward. And that might be the case. This might just be a cluster waiting to happen, or nobody has any idea what the movie's going to be about, and it's just going to be whatever they want it to be. That being said, considering the way they've handled Peter Parker and Spider-Man's character since the beginning of the MCU, I can never see them going in a direction that allows Spider-Man to be the main focus of his own film, with it just being a story about Spider-Man and Peter Parker and his rogues gallery. They're going to incorporate someone from the broader MCU, be it Daredevil or Punisher, figuring out a way for Doctor Strange to come in, or some other heavy-hitting kind of character. Someone like, I don't know, Black Panther or something. It doesn't make sense, but it will never make sense, and that's what they're going to do going forward. Maybe even a Loki if there's going to be a Mephisto and all that stuff. Who knows? My point is that even though it was set up, I don't entirely believe that this is going to be a street-level film, and it's going to be incorporating some kind of multiversal elements. Battleworld might be the best way around that, but we're going to have to wait and see. What are your thoughts on this, guys? I feel like this movie's going to be a mess, especially if it has everything that everybody has been talking about. Like, it's going to have all of these different characters and concepts, and we're just going to keep incorporating things to buff up Spider-Man, do the best we can with it, and maybe even continue to bolster the Marvel Spider-Man villain universe that Sony is saying is either dead or just getting started or being retooled or whatever they want to really talk about it with this week. What are your thoughts, guys? Tell me in the comments.